What's going on, everybody? Episode 198 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bring you to the table while we talk about the outdoors. This week, we kick off I believe the third annual, maybe the fourth. You'll have to let me know in the comments if Tom was here. Deer Camp Series. And this year, we are kicking it off. I mean, the bar is set high. We've got our buddy T.O., Tyler Opferman from WLD Productions in studio. He lives in a part of Pennsylvania that allows you to start hunting like 2 weeks earlier than the rest of the state. So he had a buck on camera all summer long, put his moves together, and in that first 2 weeks, he dropped a stud of a mainframe 8 right here in Pennsylvania, and it's going to be tough to top it. It wouldn't shock me if this is the best buck that we have on the Deer Camp Series. Obviously, we hope that bigger deer go down, but this is going to be a tough one to beat. And it's an awesome story. We hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to quit rambling. Let's get tuned in to this week's episode.
So I did the cardinal sin. I pull up my bow, and then I look dead at his antlers. I got out of the truck, and when I slammed the door, I heard gobbles all around me.
Let's see it.
Alaska, moose, spot and sock. That is the bucket list. I agree.
White Cat Outdoors. White Cat Outdoors.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another installment of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. I'm bringing us in tonight. I'm Tom. Frank is absent tonight. He had other things going on, but Nick's in the studio.
As always.
And as promised, we are starting the Deer Camp series, and we've got a big buck killer in studio already.
Yeah,
So-
and he set the bar high for this year's Deer Camp Series.
So everybody say hello to Tyler.
Tyler Opferman here, guys. How's everyone doing out there?
And he's not a first-time podcaster. He's been on the show before, so if you've been listening...
Yeah, I think that one it was with his video stuff with WLD Productions.
And hunting suburban bucks.
Yes.
Yep, and some public land stuff there.
Yeah.
So he got it done early, before most of the state even opened up.
So
September 23rd.
yeah, so what obviously I don't want you to get too like honed in on where you're at, but like what WMU are you in that you can hunt like 2 weeks earlier than everybody else?
So we're down in 2B. I believe it comes in about 2 weeks earlier than the rest of the state.
I think September 16th was your opener.
Yep.
Ours was September 29th.
It's
Or
hard
September
to keep track
30th.
of some of that stuff now, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of like I was a little envious, like seeing, because like I know you killed a buck, my buddy Luke Moyer killed a buck, and it's like, what the hell, man? Like I can't even get in the
We're
woods
sitting
yet.
up here twiddling our thumbs,
Yeah,
ready to get in there. And I know Austin Enterline, he's a familiar face on the podcast. He got a little ambitious. He went down and hunted some public land down there in 2B that opening weekend, and he said that where he was at, the state land he went to was just absolutely loaded with guys. He said that he went down with a group of 3 people. The other 2 guys saw all the trucks and drove back that same morning. He was the only one that ended up hunting. And he said it definitely tough hunting. But were you hunting public land, or did you have access to private? Or
This one was on private land this time.
So I do want to back up just a little bit. So leading into this year, throughout the summer, I know you run cameras. You've played around with some different things in front of your cameras. I know you did your watering holes and stuff last year. So take us through a little bit of your prep into this year's season and like your goals, expectations, what you did to prepare for this early season.
So we're still running the watering hole cam. There's a few mock scrape setups that I threw in this year. Threw some cams on them. And I really like to just run as many cams as possible throughout the summer. Not so worried about the ones that send it to your phone. I didn't even buy the plan for my spy points until this past month. Just trying to get the biggest inventory of deer out there, and then you can kind of narrow it down and hone in on the ones that you want to go after from there. But this particular buck, every year it seems that there's a good one in the area, and I knew being that it was my best spot or best chance at like a big buck in that 2-week time frame while I could still catch them on their summer pattern before they started to break up and go on their own ways and, I don't know, run out into the neighborhoods and get a little more harder to kill.
Yeah. So with like roughly how big is this property and how many cameras do you run? Like I know you said you like to run as many as possible. So like what's the ratio there?
So the little patch of woods that I'm in, there's a bunch of different landowners around me, but I'd say it's about, I don't know, maybe 100 acres tops of woods, and then we're probably in maybe a, I don't know, 20-acre patch of that.
Okay.
And I ran 3 trail cams across the hillside, different elevations on like where I thought they'd be coming through. Like it's like different ledges.
Okay.
And so I ran one on each of the ledges, assuming that they aren't going to travel like the side hill. Why would they not just want to walk on their deer trail on the flat?
Yeah.
And basically I was able to monitor anything that was coming into or out of this one patch of woods, because on the other side it was all houses in a field. So I had a feeling that they weren't going to be coming that way. So if a big buck were to come into my little neck of the woods, I'd know that he was in there and I'd be able to get him whether he was leaving or coming to.
Gotcha. So how early or late into the summer did you see this buck and then be like, okay, that's, this is what we're after?
So our first trail cam picture was July 20th, I want to say.
Okay, so still in velvet.
Yep. And we had sporadic trail cam pictures until September there, and then he actually disappeared on September 1st, and I figured it was going to be the story of every other buck that I've ever had on trail cam in the summer. But I kept running my cameras. I had all the other bucks that were traveling in his little group of 3 bachelor group that he would hang out in, and I actually, opening day, I had an opportunity at one of his running mates, and there was also another one of the bucks that was traveling in the bachelor group with that buck as well. But with him being around, I wanted the big one.
Yeah, especially, first 2 weeks of the season and stuff, you can be a little bit more picky and
Right.
wait it out. So going into the season, like you said, he disappeared on September 1st. Did you get any pictures of him leading up to opening day?
So I had not had a picture of him from September 1st until the day that I killed him.
Okay. So let's run through the day that you killed him.
Okay.
What was going through your mind? What was your plan? Break it down. What were you going after that day?
So opening day, I was all in. I hunted morning, evening, same stand. And like I said, I saw those other 2 bucks, and I think I saw like 10 bucks that day. It was crazy.
Jeez.
Just a bunch of little like 8 points, 4 points.
Just in the right spot.
Just nothing. Yeah, definitely there's a reason why the big one's hanging out there. So it was his little like, there was definitely a safe zone where all the deer felt comfortable, and that's why he was in there. So first week goes by. Right. Yeah, right, exactly. So my thought process is these deer are living in a suburban area where they're used to people, and they're like, the scent of a human's not going to throw them out of the area too much. So I was just going to hunt it figuring that he was going to get shot by someone else if I didn't kill him.
So you just got aggressive right off the bat and just said,
Yep.
You know what, screw it, I'm after this thing.
When you're hunting those areas that are so close to the suburbs, do you, like up here, wind direction is so important, but do you factor in wind direction when choosing which stand to go to, or do you just assume that they're constantly going to be smelling human scent so you don't pay as much mind to it?
So that's a good point, Tom. So there's actually 2 stands there. The one's up on top of the hill and the one's down in the bottom. So in the morning, I like the bottom stand because it seems like it's more bedding. And then up top, there's a field. So they like to come up to that top and kind of, I don't know, maybe they'll spar a little bit before going out to the fields. And it's like a little bit of like a staging area. But in terms of wind direction, that stand, I did like a north wind because it would be blowing my scent up the hill from the bedding area. So if I was down in the bedding area, the scent would not be going further into the deer.
Gotcha. So you said you didn't see him opening day. It was just a bunch of different bucks. So let's get into the day you went out that you did see him. Like, how did that hunt go? Like, what were you expecting to see him that day, or like what was your plan?
I had a weird hunch because the weather had changed it wasn't necessarily a cold front, but it didn't get hot. So if that makes, so it was like a 50-degree high and a 50-degree low, like no temp change.
Yeah.
And the wind was all goofy, and it was like a northeast, like it was just a weird day. It was misting, very wet in the woods, so it was like quiet. I knew I could sneak in there. So yeah, I was at my girlfriend's house and drove to the spot. An hour later, I'm in the stand, and I'd forgot my boots actually, so I'm wearing Hey Dudes. I'm putting my safety harness on, and as I go to throw my rope around the tree, it's a big tree, so I had to like reach around it, and my head was like cocked off to the left a little bit, and I was looking right at him the way like when I went to throw it.
So you're like at stand height, and I'm
at the top of the stand,
and you're just getting ready to put your safety strap on. Okay.
Arms around the tree, safety, like trying to reach around the tree for it.
Where's your bow at this point?
On the hanger with
an
arrow.
It's already...
The first thing I did was throw an arrow in it before I even...
Okay, good.
Just because I've just had that happen too many times where there's a deer that just pops up.
I swear always, it's probably the wrong way to go about it, but my bow is the last thing I get set up.
Yeah, see, I'm opposite. I'm with you. First thing I do, get that thing in the tree with an arrow.
I'm on the ground, I hook my bow up to the bow rope, I climb up the tree, I get everything situated, and then I pull my bow up.
That's going to bite you in the ass someday.
I think after this story, you're going to want to change it.
I might. I think I will.
So I do want to say a lot of big deer have died right after the same day somebody tells me that like something stupid, like you forgot your boots and you're wearing Hey Dudes. My dad shot his best buck after he grabbed a bottle of water, kind of like you did before the podcast. Thought it was just regular water, got up into his stand, realized he didn't have his hat, and that's like, it's like not wearing pants for him. Like you're out hunting, you got to have your hat on. And he goes to open this water, and it was a sparkling raspberry water, and it just exploded in his lap, covered him in raspberry juice, and he was like, this is just dumb. Like, why am I even out here? And he shot his biggest buck. So it was just kind of cool that, like, you had that, like, oh, shit kind of thing, screwed it up a little bit, but still got in.
It just made it all that more of, like, a hunch because I was like, that's why I'm going to get one.
Can't get any worse,
yeah.
So you've got your arms around this tree.
Uh-huh.
Getting strapped in. And
I'm on my knees on the platform because there's a stump that sticks out of this tree, so I had to get up above it. So I'm like reaching up, like I'm up here.
So you're like your knees are up on the seat.
Yep.
Obviously not even close to like a shooting position, and you see that buck. How far is he?
10 yards.
Holy shit.
Did you sneak up on him in his bed, or was he on his feet?
So he's 10 yards from the path. So from me, and he's standing where I cut into so I walk down this like gas line, and then I cut into my stand.
So was he looking at you at this point?
No, he's just kind of sniffing around, has no clue, but he's facing directly, like I can't shoot him where he's at. He's just directly coming at me.
Okay.
10 yards.
So what do you do at this point?
What's going through your mind? Like, oh shit.
So it was definitely an oh shit moment to start, but something came over me, and I think it was because of how fast it all happened and the fact that like the
didn't have time to panic.
It was just almost like it didn't feel real, so I kind of just went into this different zone in my mind, and I was like, I can't mess this up, and everything kind of went into slow motion, and I slowly like lowered the safety harness back around the tree, so I never actually had my safety harness on, and I might get some like flank for that, but
it is. I mean, you're just telling it honestly the way it happened. There's no sense in churching it up.
I'm in the stand a minute. Like 2 minutes tops.
Anybody that's serious about hunting, if they ran into that situation, I have a feeling most of them are going to grab their bow and do what you did.
Yeah, but you know how the internet guys are.
Yeah, screw the internet.
Yeah. All right, so internet guys aside, I'm sorry, guys, but take the safety harness and that metal, it has a metal like clasp on it.
Yeah.
That big one.
Yep.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And I just set that on that metal platform ever so softly so that it didn't make any noise at all. And once I got past that point, it was reach across over my head, never got off my knees. Like I'm still like, I'm leaning on the tree with my shoulder. So
you're still up on the seat.
Yeah, kind of leaning on the tree with my right shoulder. And my bow is off my right, so I reach like up over across my body.
Weak side.
Yep. Well, I'll watch. Never took my eyes off him, and I think that was a key because if he was looking at, I didn't want to look away because if he was starting to look at me, then he could get away.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure he was never looking, and the whole time I just slowly reach across my right side, pull the bow over top of my head, and got it in position. I don't know how the arrow didn't make any noise. Like, it was just one of those.
It just worked.
It was all worked out, and he's still standing there, just smelling around, and like something about a buck like that size, and like with that many like years under his belt, that he'd like just they always know.
You got him.
Well, I got him, but I'm saying just the way he was coming through the woods, he was just on his toes, like looking around, smelling.
There's
like,
nothing they do by chance. Every step is
every
calculated.
step that he took, he went backwards at one point. He took a couple steps like straight backwards because he didn't like something, and then he changed his mind. He's like, all right, maybe I'm gonna take a couple more. And when he took that couple more, he kind of was looking like down at the ground. So I pulled back, and he's still like facing me, and he took a left down the gas line. And as soon as he took the left at 10 yards, I mean, bang, like it went through him before. So he takes about 30 yards of big bounds, stops, looks back over his shoulder, and I just, from habit, I already had another arrow in. As soon as he stopped, I was already at full draw and let him have it again. So I put another one in him.
I see. I think that is something that's underrated, and I'm the same way. If I can get another arrow in you, it's happening.
Yep. If it's 60, 70 yards, I think you still do it. If
if you can, like, I just, if you've put one arrow in him, you can't make it any worse by trying to get a follow-up.
Exactly.
If it's possible. I mean, I've had one deer that I've been able to shoot a second and then third time. I hit all 3 times.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, people are like, oh, arrows are so expensive and stuff, but like, to me,
I ain't worried about that.
It's worth it.
No.
Like, get that deer on the ground. I don't want to, because here's the thing. If you shoot it once and you think it's a 12 ring, it's gone, and you could have made another shot, and you
don't find it,
you don't find it, you're
going
to kick yourself forever.
And especially hunting suburban areas where the property you're hunting is so small that buck could run 60, 70 yards
into a neighborhood,
into somebody else hunting, and they wing an arrow and say, oh no, that's my deer.
Totally has happened too.
Yeah, it's happened to me.
Yeah.
So any time with a rifle bow, if you can get a follow-up shot,
take it.
Absolutely.
So you hit him the first time, hit him the second time. Then what's he do after that second shot?
Takes off, just like how I hit deer would. Kicks up, takes off down over the hill, and I never see him come up the other side. So
you lose sight of him, but in your mind he should have kept going up the other side. What's going?
You have a pretty good idea he's dead down in the bottom.
The second shot was money. He was quartering away hard, and I tucked it right in front of his hip, and it went like whole way through him into the opposite shoulder. Like it
I saw everything.
Yeah, you took
the second one was
liver, diaphragm.
He wasn't coming out of that. Yeah.
So you're probably pretty confident at that point. So
yes.
What's going through your mind, like, now that like you really haven't even had probably a chance to process this deer coming in. You haven't even set up your stuff. Like, what's going through your head after you watch that deer disappear over the hill?
So it was like a moment of just like everything was like still for like maybe 5 seconds of like just thinking it through.
Like adrenaline,
like
kind of. It's like that adrenaline dump that hits right after the shot.
Like I'm like that was the buck we had trail cam pictures of. That was the big one, and I just shot the big one, and I think I shot him twice, and he should be dead right there. Like it's like this is over. Like end of story, and that's whenever I started. I was just like who do I call? Like I need to call my dad. I need to call like the guy's property that we're on, and So
I was actually with Luke when it happened, and Luke showed me a picture he got on Snapchat. He's like, yo, Tio just put an arrow through one, and he showed me a picture, just blood all the way up the arrow. I'm like, oh yeah.
It's a good sign.
Especially at 5:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
In the early season, and I think, like I keep saying, the fact that I got him before he changed his pattern.
Yeah, that's key.
Yep.
So, who did you call? Like, did you call anybody after the shot?
So I actually, first person was my girlfriend, actually.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with it.
She's like, I know you're going to get the big one. And I was like, hey, babe, like, I got the big one. And she's,
perfect.
No way. And so then I'm all excited. And then I called my dad and then our one buddy.
So did you wait for anybody? Like, what did you do? It's like, you really haven't even hardly set up in the tree. So, like, what do you do? Like, obviously your hunt's over, but, like, do you pack up and go look for this thing, or do you wait for the crew, or what do you do?
So when I was waiting, that's whenever it hit me that my season was pretty much over. I'm sure I'll go doe hunting in the late season and everything, but it was just kind of like like the whole moment of wow, like now what am I gonna do? But
Yeah,
like
never
but I
been
also,
here before.
but I also have this like big buck laying on the ground like maybe 60 yards away from me, and I should be happy, and it's just this mixed emotions.
If your season's going to be over early, that's probably the best case scenario.
Yeah, you definitely don't want ground shrinkage on a buck that you shoot in the early season.
No, and it can happen to anybody.
I've had some serious ground shrinkage in my day.
Yeah.
I've been known to get a little amped up.
So you waited for people before you went and looked at, like, did you get a first look without anybody, or
I might have went down and peeked.
just over the hill, like make sure he's
he was there.
Nice. So you had to make sure that the track was going to be quick.
I went to where I shot him the second time, found my arrow, and just kind of left everything lay so that the people that were coming wouldn't be like, oh, you already found him, and I let them. But I was videotaping the whole thing behind them, and they're like, oh, I got some blood, and I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, there's blood?
And
Cool.
they're like still not looking. I'm like, guys, he went like 30 yards. He's right there.
Nice.
And then it's just a whole pile of emotion. Everyone's happy, and
So any ground shrinkage on him?
now
Everything you thought he
Maybe
was?
a little ground growth, huh?
he definitely got bigger.
That doesn't happen often.
No.
It's a good thing when it does happen, though. I'll tell you that for free.
I think knowing the deer, like, I know that sounds bad, but like that's
No,
how
I
it
know
is nowadays. But like with trail cameras, if you're not running trail cameras, you're out, like you're behind the game. So you kind of have to. I'm sure there's guys out there that
I know several people that don't run any cameras, and the only reason is basically they just like that element of surprise and not knowing. But I'm kind of goal oriented. Like, I like to have a buck that is, on my radar.
Exactly.
Like, I need that reason to get out there. Like, hey, there's something big out there. There's something worth chasing.
Well, that's my biggest point with the trail cameras. If you don't have trail cameras out and you don't know what's out on your farm or the property that you're hunting, you might shoot the first 15, 16-inch wide 8-point that comes across because you're like, that's a nice buck. I'm happy with it. But if you have trail cam pictures of a 135, 140-inch buck, you're going to be a lot more inclined to pass up the 105-inch because you know what you have.
Well, that's exactly what you did opening day.
Exactly.
So I know you're big into filming, and it sounds like there's no way you had your camera set up.
I did not film it all this year, unfortunately.
Two
but
hunts worth.
Sounds like
That's
you
why
didn't
it
have time
worked.
to film.
Yeah.
No, it's because I know you and I have talked a little bit about filming and stuff, and it does make it a little bit more challenging. But I think you're on the same page I am, where like I would much rather kill deer than film deer. The filming to me it's important, but it's secondary.
Yep.
And sounds like you weren't worried about getting a camera set up to make sure you got a shot.
No, the way it was the buck was big enough that it didn't matter if I had it on film or not.
Gotcha.
You can tell the story over and over again. You don't need the footage.
Yeah.
Well, and
it'll
it's
be on
cool
the
though that
wall.
you still got the videos of like people tracking it, even though you knew the outcome. But
Yeah.
like it's cool.
Yeah, it was good to
Something
see the reaction
Yeah, look back on it
for sure.
So you got him green scored, right?
So that's why it's we scored them, but it's a rough score because I did it myself with my dad there, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, because
That's how we score all of ours.
Yeah, none of
Okay.
us are professional scorers.
Okay.
We have the tapes and stuff to do it.
Okay.
But there's like a green, technically, like official scores after 60 days of drying.
Right. What do they lose? Like maybe an inch?
It
if that?
depends.
Not much,
It
yeah.
depends. It's
Obviously, the bigger they are, the more they lose.
I think
but
it's more on their like spread from their skull plate
yeah.
shrinking.
yeah, it'll shrink there.
they lose a little bit of mass.
Yeah,
but-
but I mean it's negligible.
Okay.
But I mean I've never been like I'm not putting a tape to that till 60. Like it's hanging in the garage, just getting a tape to it.
Oh yeah.
That's
So-
how big it was when you shot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the whole like scoring thing, like looking at like, I don't necessarily chase a score, but I chase a big buck. So
Something that
right,
trips your trigger.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was going into the season. I said like it didn't matter. Like the way I was gonna know if I wanted to shoot the deer was if I got excited when I saw him in the woods.
That's
Yeah,
the best way to do it. If you have to think,
Yeah.
is that a shooter? It's probably not a shooter.
If
But
a
when
buck
you
gets
see
me
that
shaking,
buck and you
right.
like right away, that's the one I want to kill.
Yep.
That's how you know.
Draw back and take it. Yeah.
So he scored 135 and a quarter
As an 8.
as a 9.
Oh, as a
But
9.
The 9, I want to say the ninth point was about 2 3/4 of an inch.
But I mean, you're
So
talking
mainframe 8.
Yeah, mainframe 8.
17-inch spread, but
So
yeah,
at 17-inch spread, you've got mass and you've got some tine length on that.
the tine length is killer. I had 4 tines over 9 inches,
Damn.
so they
That's
add up pretty
a
quick.
hell of a PA buck.
Yeah.
I mean that's a good buck anyway. For a mainframe 8 to that buck will net Pope and Young.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
it's not going to lose 10
No.
inches on that.
No.
So like a PA buck mainframe 8 to net Pope and Young that's a hell of a deer. Whether you're anywhere in the country, but like especially Pennsylvania with the way most people's mentality is up here.
For sure. Yep.
I'm assuming he's at the taxidermist now.
Just dropped him off the other day.
Perfect. What kind of mount are you going with? him?
Euro. No. I'm just
Yeah. And I got enough of
Just
those.
cut the skull plate off.
yeah, give me a little green velvet and call it a
I
day.
had a couple of people. They're like, "Oh, are you sure with how expensive the taxidermy is now?" And I was like,
ain't getting any cheaper,
I've been
man.
waiting since I was like 12 to get one on the wall, and
That's-
it's been 11 years.
That's last year was the first one I ever put on the wall because same thing. I got the same questions because I think I paid over $600 for
Yep.
my mount.
Yep.
And it's like everybody's like, oh man, they're so expensive. Like, are you really sure about it? I'm like, I've been hunting since I was 10. I've been hunting with a bow in my hand since I was 12. I was 25 when I shot that deer. Like, I'd been hunting for 15 years and had not put a deer on the wall. Like, I was ready for that. Like, it could have been $1,500 and I would have paid it.
That was a big wide 8, right?
Yeah.
19 and 7/8 inches wide.
If you're going with 16s, it was 15, but
15,
7/8.
almost in the 20-inch club.
Yeah.
Not quite.
But it didn't have the mass or the tine length your buck did. You've got, I bet you, a good probably 10, 12 inches on mine.
Right.
Like mine was right around that 120 mark.
120.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a heck of a buck in PA.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't
Especially
let him
with a
go.
bow. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna let him walk.
Most people don't even know what that looks like coming through the woods.
No,
It's a whole other level.
I remember when I shot it. I called my grandpa because I was hunting his farm, and I said I shot a buck. I'm pretty sure he's my best deer. I can't tell you how big he is, but I know he's wide as hell. That's all. Like all I saw coming through, I saw a cage. Everything was coming
Wide.
up, and he was out past his ass. I'm like, it's a good deer, and that's all I cared about. And like I said, I didn't have to think for a second. Like I saw the antlers. And just instincts took over. Like that's a shooter. My bow's in my hand, and that was it.
That's also how the genetic is up this way though. Is that wide, short tined, and
Yeah,
it definitely
it's-
hurts them. But
Yeah, I mean, you got to work with what you got. I mean, that was one of the better deer we had on the property. So like, I mean, I bet you top 5.
how old would you say that deer is? 3.5.
I'm guessing 3.5.
Okay.
It just
Which, in Pennsylvania, if you're passing up 3.5-year-olds, you're freaking crazy.
yours is all day. That
3.5.
3.5 could be even
4.5
4.5
tops.
with that mass.
Right.
It wouldn't shock me to see that deer come back. I don't know if your taxidermist will age him or not. You having him? Or,
I think he will. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is he's either 3.5 or 4.5.
Okay.
There's no way that a 2-year-old gets that kind of mass, and that's, I think because Frankie killed a 2-year-old that was 140 inches as a 10, or just over 140 as a 10. But one thing that a buck, I don't care, any buck I've ever seen, a 2.5-year-old deer never has mass. It for whatever reason, mass comes with age.
Yep.
And a deer with that kind of mass, it to me is at least 3.5.
Definitely a mature buck.
Yeah.
What kind of form are you getting them on?
I believe it's like a semi-sneak, so he's not fully standing up, but he's not like low.
So did you try to like capture the memory of this deer in the mount? Is that kind of what you're going for? Or?
The original would have been a sneak.
Okay.
But just looking at other mounts, I wanted his head up a little bit so people could see him a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Just out of preference, but I think it'll come back looking pretty realistic to what he was doing in the woods there.
That was one thing that was important to me because I got my buck with the ears back because that was the way he came in. I snort wheezed at him and he came in pissed off, and I was like, I just want that captured.
I would have done the same thing. Yeah.
So I think it's cool to, when you look at the buck, it's like kind of like what you saw in the woods. That's
exactly
kind of what I was going for, and it sounds like that you're pretty much same deal. Give him
as close as I can.
Yeah, and it doesn't. From the pictures I saw, that buck doesn't have a bad angle, so he's going to look good on any angle.
So he has the side with the 5, but then the other side he has a tine is 10 inches. So it's depending on what you want to show off.
Yeah, you just switch him every 6 months to the left or the right side of the house.
Exactly.
Trying to think. I mean, so I know we talked a little bit before the podcast. You said you might do a little bit of doe hunting, but I don't know. I mean, me personally, if I'm done in September, I got October, November, December.
I'm hunting the rut.
Well,
I'm finding a way to hunt the rut.
Yeah, so are you planning to go out of state this year or what?
So I'm about 45 minutes from West Virginia, or if I want to do the hour and a half, I'll be in Ohio. So down there in southwestern PA, I have 2 options. It's just I'm in the middle of making that decision right now, I guess. It's not a bad problem to have.
I have it in with 115 acres in New York.
That's the opposite way. But
I'm
I was
just
going to
saying,
say,
if you ever find yourself up in the neck of the woods,
if you ask nicely, I got some spots and stuff to maybe give you a starting point over in Southeast Ohio.
Okay.
Frank and I've hunted over there a couple times, and
okay.
we've had. I mean, haven't seen any like monsters or anything, but there's been plenty of sign, and we've always gone for the late bow season, so it's like been pretty hunted, hunted pretty heavily. But there's some spots out there with some like public land that's got corn and stuff on it that they leave up all year. So yeah, if you end up going to Ohio, let me know.
Yeah, it's either going to be that or really chase some bears. So.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Did you get a bird this year?
A bear tag or?
A bird.
Bird.
Turkey.
Gobbler.
In the spring? No.
I guess technically you'd have to get a bird next spring. For the Grand Slam, the PA Slam.
Yep.
So I guess now, get the bear.
I think it's the bear.
Let me ask you this. If you do, so you got all season, you already got your buck, you got all season to focus on a bear. Let's say you kill a bear. How particular are you going to be with a gobbler to get that PA Grand Slam? Or are you shooting the first freaking Jake that comes in front of you?
I would not shoot a Jake just because.
Not even to get a PA Grand Slam?
I know I can shoot a gobbler.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. Confidence out the waz.
I would have it. I kill birds every year.
It may be a grind, but I'll get it done.
But I've never seen you pass up a Jake before.
I don't have to. I just call longbeards in.
Or a Jake, whichever comes in first.
But
most of the time it is a longbeard, but...
Yeah, I get lucky with that. But so you chasing bears with the bow or rifle or both or like...
Whatever it takes.
Whatever
it takes.
So do you get many bear on camera where you hunt, or are you going to have to travel a little bit?
So I'm out where I actually live right now. I'm out towards like the middle of the state a little bit more.
Okay.
So like Altoona area.
Bear country.
Yeah, you got plenty of bear.
So I might have a little like day trip out there, and every once in a while I'll throw some spy points out. Maybe if I can find some like good oak flats somewhere where they're feeding, and maybe find some bear scat.
Bushes and stuff.
Yeah,
But you want really thick bushes, swamps.
Like laurel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love laurel.
I don't know much about bear. Also, our headquarters holds bear for whatever reason. I don't know what it is about that farm, but we have multiple bear every year. I know nothing
Austin
about
got
bear
one
hunting.
Last year Austin killed a pretty good bear up there, and we've got one that's been on camera that dwarfs that. I mean, it's twice that size, easy.
They have some of the biggest bears around.
In Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
PA's got
yeah.
giant bear. And it's just because our winters don't get cold enough to where they don't hibernate here, so they keep eating, they keep growing. But yeah, I guess if I was done that early, I would probably same boat. As much as I want to keep buck hunting, but like if a bear's on your bucket list, I would be.
How cool would that be? A Pennsylvania bear with your bow, actually targeting them.
Yeah,
that would be impressive.
Maybe get it on film this time.
yeah, maybe.
I mean, you never know. It can happen like that. It's just crazy how you can get. Like, you're not even set up and the buck's standing right in front of you.
I know I'll be filming out of state when I do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Lots of fishing. I'm actually heading up to the Salmon River this weekend.
Today?
I was messing around down at Walnut Creek. They're all piled up at the mouth there.
Any action?
There's about 500 fish. I hooked up once to a big one, but he broke me off. And
That's the thing, like right now when they're all right at the mouth, you got...
They're so lively, too.
Well, they're lively because they can run out to the lake, but you got freaking 100 guys down there.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't the only one down there tonight.
The lightning definitely scared him away.
Oh, was there lightning tonight?
Yeah, it was a calculated risk.
Okay.
I was counting.
You got to get that fish.
Yeah. At one point, we were like 2 miles away from the lightning, so...
Oh, that's...
No, I figured I was waiting for it to get to 1.
Yeah.
It might have just went right over our head, so...
Nice.
Hey, anything you got to do to catch a steelhead.
So, before we shut this down, do you have any tips to, like, maybe inspire some people or something different you did this year that you think helps, that got you on this deer so fast and ended your season so quickly? Like, do you have anything to throw out there you think that helped with the success?
Anything for the new hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say if you're getting a picture of a deer on trail cam, I know I was discouraged because I've had it happen in the past, assuming that deer was gone. Like the way I even talked about it, I was telling my dad, I was like, we're like, what deer are we gonna go after now on this property? Because like the big one's gone. Like there's really no other big ones there, and it was about a month with all those trail cams. You'd think he would have walked by, and maybe he left the area for a little bit. Who knows? But just don't get discouraged if you're not seeing your buck, because he's going to come back through eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, we've been hunting food plots that we have cameras on, and you'll see deer out in that field that never walk over that camera. Like, it's not out of the question to say that deer was walking behind your camera when it was crossing through there for that last 2 weeks. It could be that case. You never know. Like, a camera only gives you a little bit of the picture out there. But like you said, I guess don't totally give up on it if you're not seeing him on camera.
Yeah, he might have his trail and you might not have your camera on it. He might have just got lost the one time you had a picture of him on your camera. So.
Yeah.
And that gives me a little bit more courage going out into the woods, because we've had a buck all summer out at the farm we hunt. He's a mainframe 8, but he's got double split G2s. And we had him all summer long. And as soon as like September 9th, September 11th, 12th, 13th, right when you expect them to lose their velvet, start going hard-horned, this buck disappeared. And that was the buck all summer long. I was like, that's the one I want. That's the one I'm going to go after.
Yeah, we were both kind of like, yeah, that's the buck on this property.
I think he's coming back. It's just a matter of when and if you're there.
I think Monday, with this rain all weekend, I think Monday is going to be a deadly time to be in the woods.
Yeah, I'd say if I had one tip to give, like just one sole tip for someone that knew nothing about hunting, anytime where you see the temperature go from 70 to 50, 50 to 30, any of those big temperature drops, they're going to come with a north wind, and that north wind's going to get the bucks on their feet, and it's going to make their hair stand up on their back, and they're going to be out running around. Those are big travel days for them, and that's whenever you want to be in the woods. So,
well, that was a couple years ago. This was the first time that I had ever targeted a buck over summer and figured out his pattern and decided this is the buck I'm going to kill. And it didn't work out exactly like I planned, but I had him come into this food plot religiously. And he was always coming, an hour after dark. And I waited until we got that first 15-degree temp drop. And I went in, had the right wind for him. Went in, sure enough, that buck came in 20 minutes before dark. And I fucked up, just going to leave it at that. But had the opportunity, screwed it up. But he was there, should have killed him. And
it is what it is.
It is, but...
What do you think your percentage is on those days when you get that 20-degree temp, like that big cold front with the north wind that you've been waiting on with that buck you've been watching?
I think the first cold front in October
is going to be key.
Just as good as peak rut. I think
agree.
It puts them on their toes, like back into their summer patterns one more time.
I think Monday is going to be the day. I think that my prediction is you're going to see influx of people. The problem is being a Monday, there's a lot of guys that won't go. But I'm a big believer in that time in the woods kills deer. And I think if I have an hour and a half to go after work, I'm going to be there, because you can't kill them if you don't go. And if everything works out, if it's going to rain all weekend and then Monday's that first day where there's no rain and it's still cold, I think that's going to be just absolutely killer.
I think that first cold front in October, because usually you get that first cold front usually within the first week or two of October. And like you said, I think it jumpstarts them, gets them on their feet early, and gets them back on the summer pattern that you watched them all summer long. So if you watch this buck all August, all September, come into this food plot eating, and right before the season starts, he disappears. I think, you wait that first cold front in October, there is a very, very high chance that he's going to be back on that regular routine within shooting hours.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a buck patterned, that is your best shot at killing a mature buck other than, peak rut.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that.
Well, Tyler, I want to thank you for making the trip out here to do the podcast, and congratulations on the first episode of the Deer Camp series this year. It's going to be a tough one to beat because, I mean, typically like the first episode or two is like does, just trying to get them out of the way, and now we're starting off with a net Pope and Young.
We're shooting big bucks this year, guys.
I hope
That's
so.
the game plan. I said it in a podcast earlier this year. My goal is $3 this year. $3 over 115.
That's a
So,
steep
Two
goal.
in New York, one in PA.
2 in New York, 1 in PA.
All right.
Alright.
I wish you the best of luck with that.
I'm gonna need a little bit of luck.
All right. Well, thanks again. We appreciate everybody listening every week. Hunting season's open for, I think, everybody, so make sure you guys are all still getting outside.
Thanks, guys.